Hello, welcome back to Let's Play Jane's Fighters Anthology. I know it's been quite a while, but I actually got some good news to come with this long absence. So last we left off, we were doing we were starting to get into the what the game considers bombers, and we had gotten up to the A6 intruder. Um, Now, as I'll go over maybe eventually in another video, I had to go through my computer basically got shipifessiest, and the only things really the same at this point are the hard drives and the sound card and the power supply. Although I do have a new hard drive, but that's beside the point. Um, but I had to upgrade to Windows 11, and as part of that, I have a clean install of Fighters Anthology on a clean install Windows 11. And it turns out it actually fixed a couple of things that were going wrong with my program. First of all, every time I exit, instead of it just kind of crashing the desktop, which is fine, when I'm exiting, so obviously I've saved everything I needed to save and all that, but like it would always crash the desktop. I think. I get an ad for Longbow 2 now. I guess it couldn't load that ad um, when I exited, which I assume has to do with it not being able to load the photo albums and such. That's right. Photo albums, partless cockpit, all this stuff that I've been having to skip work now, which means today I'll be reviewing everything up to this point in just one big video, and then starting from the next episode, I'll be able to include those in the video when um, I make the video. So now I don't have to make a whole separate thing at the end. I mean, I guess I kind of do. I'm still having to make a separate thing, but amazing pictures considering what they had to work with back then, So parts list, cannon, fuselage. This is just kind of pointing out. This is more pointing out some of the structural features than parts, I would argue. But so yeah, we'll be going through all of these. Nice cockpit view there. This looks like a two-seater because that looks like it might be a pilot up front. Then again, maybe this is a single-seater. Actually, don't know. I wish I had a better view. Can we get that with the A7E? No, A7E is mostly the same. All right, that's fine. We are on fighter still. So now we have the A10 photos here. The Chinko photos. Honestly, some of these I'm surprised. Here we can see a picture of the engine. Boy, these engines in any aircraft, they're really big old honkers. Alpha Jet, we have a glorious 2 black and white photos. And you can see even these photographs you can see are so heavily compressed, and I probably won't if it was just one photo set, I would consider using my noise filtering program to kind of clean these photographs up a little bit, but just because it's so many, it would just take forever. Oops, I was clicking the wrong thing there. Did I miss? No, okay, we looked at Alpha Jet already. So AV8B, field takeoff, flying in formation. Actually, I want to give a little bit of time with no mouse or anything over it, just in case people want to copy it or screenshot it or something, and then they don't have to edit out the mouse. Because I think these are all really cool photos, even if the resolution is a bit low. I feel like I've seen this one in color before, but maybe it was just a similar one. What's that? 8. Yep. So parts list here. This is a little bit more detailed. Pegasus growth engine, lift improvement devices. High velocity 25mm gun, 9 store stations, composite wing rudder and horizontal tail, radar warning system, programmable countermeasures, positive circulation flap, supercritical airfoil, leading edge route extension, night vision goggle compatible cruise station. Here we go, a nice cockpit view there. once again, a big honker, and you actually have people next to it for scale this time. Fuselage, which is really just a different view of the parts list, but with color and less labels, but it is what it is. Bayhawk, we have a total of 5 images here. Nothing too impressive. I assume they put some of the less impressive photos or photos for lesser known aircraft in black and white just to perhaps save on space. Because, yeah, compare all of those photos to this Typhoon, and some of it may just be when the photo was taken, too. Like, obviously, the Vietnam War era photos are going to look not as good as, like, this photo, which would have been taken probably the same decade this game was made, maybe even the year before it was made versus, 20 years previous. So we got some color photos of the Eurofighter Typhoon. And you can see that the unique symbol for the Eurofighter program and all the countries that are kind of involved in its development, because that's RAF, Spain, I want to say that's Italy. I don't recognize the fourth one. In theory, it should be Germany, because I think Germany was one of the big partners, but I could be wrong on that. And I think this one was used on the cover of the ATF expansion for NATO fighters. Or, what was it? Because you had USNF 97. Well, United States Navy fighters with the Marine expansion. And then I think Vietnam was also an expansion. And all those packaged together was USNF 97. No, NATO. I think NATO fighters was the expansion. So this might have been like the cover for NATO fighters, maybe. Trying to think what ATF, Advanced Tactical Fighter, that was the name of the other game, and then you had the NATO Fighters expansion, and I think maybe another expansion. And then obviously all those got packaged together to make this game, and we're out of photos there. All right, parts lists. Got the cockpit, which is actually very modern looking for something from the 90s here. I mean, that almost looks like it could have been from a aircraft today. And look at that thrust. Here you can kind of see how, these aren't solid pieces. It's more of like a skeleton with all these ribs and stuff. Here we have F4Bs. There's a bonus Sea King. A lot of these seem to be Marine F4s. Oh, there's a Navy one. And there's one escorting, I believe, an IL-38 May. Parts list. With another Marine one. And then you have a cockpit. Which, this one... it's kind of hard to tell. But, I mean, the F4 was a 2-seater. Okay, yeah, G would be next. Except G has nothing, so on to the Phantom, which does have... They reuse the cockpit, and they reuse the parts list, unfortunately. But they do have different photo albums. Different pictures in their photo album would be the more grammatically correct way of saying that. Alrighty. So let's see what's next. The F5 Tiger. We got 3 photos in the album. And we have a nice cockpit photo there. Crusader. We got 6 whole photos in the album. Wait. I think this is literally just... First of all, this is French. No, okay, it is American. I was going to say that might have been French, but I think it actually... Is it French? It might be French. I think this might be a French Crusader landing on an American carrier, because I think that's an F-14 in the background, and this looks like it could be a A6 or EA6. This is maybe an E2 maybe? But like a really weird view of it. But I don't think the Marines ever operated F8s, so I think this is French. And then this photo is just the same one, like a few seconds later, as it grabs the hook. And yeah, that looks more like it would be a France roundel than a US roundel. In any case. Oh yeah, that's definitely French. Because they operated the F8 way longer than it should have been operated, just because that was like their only Navy-based fighter for a while, and they just never bothered to replace it until even this one's. Actually, that one looks. Oops. I think it literally looks like all they did was kind of like crop everything else out of the picture and then overlay it with these parts. But yeah, France operated them way longer than anyone else did, except for like the Philippines, because they just like never bothered to make a replacement naval fighter until the Rafael, and they made the M variant. My favorite, my beloved, the F-14. Oh, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Brings a tear to my eye. Ooh, we got the F-14B here. Shame they didn't get a chance to shine, really, but tired before their time. Stupid Cold War budget cuts. Or post-Cold War budget cuts, if we're being technical about it, but that and politicking. Maintenance was some of the concern, but I think the D was a lot better. At least from what I've heard, the D was a lot better than the A in terms of maintenance. And obviously everyone's seen that picture, I think. Parts list. Details. Variable wings. 2-person crew. Engine intakes. Wing gear. Yeah, those are the most important parts, definitely. Here you can see the beautiful cockpit of... Oh, actually, this should all be D. Because in Fighter's Anthology, it's a D variant. Right. In USNF 97, I think it was the B variant. And once again, we have a honker of an engine. The F-15C Eagle, which is pretty barren, all things considered. Not even in color. They're all like black and white. Man. Ooh, there's a rare picture. So this is an F-15C Eagle, but you'll notice it has conformal fuel tanks. And if I remember correctly, that was a unique configuration for Icelandic, well, they were American F-15s because Iceland doesn't have an air force, if I remember correctly, but American F-15s stationed in Iceland, like all F-15Cs had the option for these conformal fuel tanks, but the F-15Cs stationed in Iceland would actually use them to give them additional range over the Pacific to throw out, any sort of Soviet bombers that might be harassing shipping or in the area or something, or supporting an attack on Iceland. So there's the C, and here we can see the cockpit, very old looking, with all the dials and gauges versus the newer glass cockpits. Nothing for the E, unfortunately. We do have an album for the J, only 2. Surprise if it's the F-15C, but with Japanese roundels and a couple Japanese manufactured parts. Nothing for the F-16A. We do have some stuff for the F-16C. Wow, the the F-16's got color photos and the F-15 didn't. That's kind of a surprise, since I think most people would gravitate to the F-15 as being like more popular, if nothing else. Certainly more capable for air-to-air combat. Oh, this guy looks a little dusty. Beautiful pictures. Parts list. Let y'all read that for yourselves. We got our cockpit here. Once again, a honking engine. And the fuselage. I love these cutaways. The fan favorite, the F-22 Raptor. There is a lot of compression banding here. Oh, what a sleek fighter. That looks like might be an F-16 as a chase plane there. Oh, this isn't even an F-22. This is the YF-22 still. So it's not a proper F-22. I think, if I remember correctly, either the Wikipedia article or the James reference section here went into the differences that were going to be made between the YF-22 and the F-22. Parts lists. Diamond wings, so hot right now. Low RCS engineer intake, the split S intakes, I believe they're called. Here's the cockpit, which actually EAA, it's meant for kids, but EAA AirVenture in Oshkosh, Wisconsin actually has like a small F-22 replica you can actually go in. Like I said, it's meant for kids, but as long as you aren't too big as an adult, you should be able to get in there, and the cockpit looks very much like this that they have replicated in there. Ooh, that's a honker. And she rectangular, too. But there's that thrust vectoring in action there on a static test stand. Just think of the kind of mounts they have to have that thing on in order to keep it from, like, just flying away under its own power. Like, that's got to be some ungodly amount of, whatchamacallit, I can't think of the word right now. Fasteners. There gotta be some ungodly huge fasteners to keep that thing bolted down. And a nice cutaway of it. Not as detailed as the others, understandably so. And the engines don't even go the full length of the aircraft. Yeah, that makes sense because of the internal weapons bays on the front half. But the F-104. Very shiny aircraft, as were many aircraft at the time. I don't know why, like, this shiny sheet metal thing was a fad. I really got to read into that, because, like, you have World War II where, like, you see, like, for the U.S. Navy especially, and to a lesser extent, like, the Air Force. The Air Force was kind of mix and match, I think, of, like, that exposed sheet metal versus, like, painted camouflage. Or just any color. But, like, the Navy, they painted their stuff all blue and stuff, But then you go to Korean War and you see it's all like that, that sheet metal or that aluminum skin stuff, unpainted, just polished or whatever. Just rows and rows of sabers like that. And then you see them going back to painted skins again. So I'm kind of curious what caused that fad. Was it just a simple cost-saving measure? Or was it because of... I know one thing they did do for a short time is they painted bombers in a white anti-flash coating for the nuclear mission, for dropping nuclear bombs. The idea that would reflect a lot of the harmful, light and some of the radiation and stuff from their aircraft. It would bounce off instead of, hurting stuff. I wonder if maybe that has to do with that, but then I think they'd be painted white, not just that polished aluminum or whatever. A little disappointing to see most of the Hornet pictures are in black and white, but still very beautiful pictures. And they look so good. At least in the native 640 by 480, they look pretty darn good for the most part, other than, compression noise. It'll be interesting to see how these upscale to 4K. Boom! There we go. We have another parts list here. And the cockpit. Very digitalized cockpit. And this is the Legacy Hornet. This isn't even the Super Hornet. Alright, we got the Japanese FSX, which they've got the one photo. Congrats. The IAI Kiefer. 2 photos. And cockpit. J70 fish bed, 1 photo. And the engine. Another beefy boy. MiG-17F. Looks like a couple Soviet examples here. Not sure I recognize that one. Might be Vietnamese. This one, I think, is Nah. Is it Pakistani? I thought No. Pakistan used the F-86, I thought. Bangladesh? This one, I think, is Polish, if I'm not mistaken. So with this one, if I'm not mistaken. And there's the parts list. MiG-21. I think I've seen that previous picture in another context with a few extra pictures. And again, another beefy engine. MiG-21F. There we got some MiG-21s flying over a farm field and then in a turn here. Another parts list. What is that? Iraqi, maybe? Just looking at the flag there. MiG-23, we get a whole 2 pictures in the photo album. MiG-25, well, we actually get 5 pictures this time. We got MiG-27 next, yep. Ground attack version of the MiG-23, which for some reason a lot of flight sims use just as a stand-in for the MiG-23 in the air combat role, including this game to some extent. MiG-29. Again, I think that's Polish. It might be German, but I'm pretty sure it's Polish. Because remember, they were part of the Warsaw Pact until the Iron Curtain fell, and then they rushed over to NATO as soon as they could. Because boy, do they hate Russia. And understandably so. Especially considering present-day events. And cockpit photos. Actually, decently modernized here with the LCD displays. MiG-29M, which has a zoomed out version with more brightness of the same cockpit photo. And then just one picture, which is also the same. MiG-31, we got 2 pictures here. And we got the cockpit. Not much for the pilot to work with there, it seems. And big honking engine. But then again, this aircraft can go to, what, Mach 3 plus, according to the Russians, so. Understandable. Mirage 2000. Flying over the French countryside, I presume. And then we got the engine. Once again, a honker. Got the Mirage 5. We only have the single photo. And then the cockpit photo. Mirage F1. 3 photos. Looks like we got good fore and aft shots there. And then the cockpit. Actually, it's decently modern too, surprisingly. Although, maybe these are CRTs built in, not LCDs, like I've been assuming. Mirage 3, we have 3 photos, 1 duals, race. Mitsubishi F1, 2 photos. There they are flying in formation. Q5 Phantom, 2 photos. Then we have a view of the cockpit, surprisingly. I like how everything outside the cockpit is whited out. And then we have the engine. Raphael C. Color photos once again because it's new and shiny and we have to show it off. It must be the Charles de Gaulle, or at least I would assume so. Which would make it a Raphael M actually and not a Raphael C. In that particular instance at least. Same deal here. This is probably an M on the Charles de Gaulle. Again, given the carrier in the background, this is probably an M. And there we go. His and hers Raphael's. White and black. There. Actually, one's a... looks like... assuming they're both Raphaels, because they both certainly look like it. It looks like one's a single-seater and one's a dual-seater. And then we have our parts list, which is based off Raphael M, given that it's operated by the French Marine, which is our Navy. Cockpit. Big honking engine, as per the usual. And a nice cutaway of the fuselage. Alright, we got the Saab Draken, 3 photos. Like how much the engine protrudes out from that design versus the positioning of the aft stabilizer there. And we have the Saab Griffin, which this was one of the NATO Fighters expansion, so of course they're all going to be in color, or at least the majority of them. Ooh, I like how it can rotate its, I've been away from this too long. Why can't I remember their name? Canards. I don't know why that took me so long to come up with, but I like how they can rotate their canards like that to act as, like, additional brakes. It's kind of cool. And the fact that they can support that kind of force, too. There we go, launching a missile. We got the parts list here. Cockpit photo. Our honking engine with a nice cutaway of it actually this time. So you can see how all the air gets compressed and ignited and forced out. and a fuselage cutaway. Then we have the Saab Viggen, 2 photographs. Not much to say here for this double delta. We got the British Sea Harrier, which I'm wondering if this is actually, can't tell from that one, but because I can't see the round though, but yeah, it's probably British. I like just the pallet jack there, like just a random old pallet jack you might find at any job site. Okay, yeah, they're definitely British because I know the original Harrier design was shared with the USMC, and that was, we designated the AVA. I think the Sea Harrier was a variant of that was exclusive to the British and maybe India, or the carrier the Brits sold them, or was that just Fleet Command being Fleet Command? I'd have to look at that. Alright, now we got the parts list, which, as per usual, isn't that great. A decent view of the cockpit. And again, we have a nice cutaway of the engine here. And you can see these are the 4 not lift fans, but like the 4 vents or ducts that they use for vertical, when they have to go vertical. Su-7 fitter, 2 photos. Man, that rocket pod looks tiny on the aircraft. Alright, Su-25, we have 3 photos. That looks like a pretty rough airstrip there. There's a normal looking airstrip. And there it is, showing off all its hard points. Cockpit. And the engine. Su-27 flanker, 4 photos. I believe that's from the Russian Knights aerobatics team. Same here. And we have the cockpit photo. Flanker D, 1 photo. Folded up on the Kuznetsov, presumably. Parts list. And the engine. Su-35, we have 8 photos. In color, too. Since I think this was like the big bad adversary for the NATO fighters campaign. And a lot of compression noise on these photos for some reason. At least in most of them. Color banding just looks terrible. And we have a parts list. Aluminum lithium alloy fuselage. Cockpit. I will say it's weird because I normally only hear about lithium being used in batteries. I know it's got other usage, but I don't think I've ever heard of it being alloyed with aluminum for use in aircraft fuselages. I'll have to look that up. Kind of interested how that works out. Here we have the Superintendent, 2 photos. The X-29 FSW, 7 photos. As you can see, it's all NASA, because that's all it ever was. Oop the snoot. Beautiful sunset picture there. There's a pilot for comparison. And we have a parts list. Okay, so that's where they store the chute then. Air Pro data. Here's the cockpit. You can see the engine here. And the fuselage cutaway. And we have the X-31 EFM 7 photos. Looks like they tested it all over the place. There you can see the US and German flags for the partnership. Then we got a parts list. That same blocky spin recovery chute that we saw in the X-29, or at least it looks like the same style. Thrust vectoring system, except they have additional pedals for thrust vectoring. Here we see the cockpit, which is very basic, but as a testbed aircraft, that's understandable. It's not going to be loaded with air-to-air sensors or stuff. The engine and the fuselage cutaway. And then we have the X-32 AST OVL or Stovel. You can see some concept art, which this is all concept art of the Boeing X-32. Very early concept art too, I think. And we see the parts list here. And the fuselage. And then we have the Yak 141. 3 pictures. You can see that lift fan in action there and the unique design they have for the fuselage to incorporate that lift fan. Parts list here. And the engine, which looks a lot smaller than most of the engines we've seen, to be honest. Alright, so that's all the fighters, and then I'll just do the bombers we've done to date. So we have one picture for the Skyraider. We do. A little disappointing there aren't more, but we have a couple photos for the Skyhawk here. There's Skyhawks in a unique air-to-air configuration with sidewinders. Well, I think that was the case for anti-submarine escort carriers in the Cold War. They converted some of the old SX fleet aircraft carriers from World War II into anti-submarine carriers, and I think A4s were generally some of basically the most fighter-like aircraft they deployed, and they would just deploy them with sidewinders because in the gaps that they were expected to patrol, it was expected that Russian fighters wouldn't be able to fly out that far with, like, the Russian bombers or anti-submarine aircraft or maritime patrol aircraft, so A4s with sidewinders would be more than sufficient to shoot those down. But then aircraft ranges became longer, and that kind of made the anti-submarine carrier obsolete. And then we have the A6 Intruder here, 3 photos. There's an S3 Viking next to it. And then we have the A6E Intruder here, same 3 photos. Did I do the Dragonfly? I know I definitely didn't do the AC-130, so I think that's where we'll leave off. So yeah, in the future, whenever the options present themselves for these details or the photo album, I will be just including that in the base video. So I hope you all enjoyed it. I think just because of how long this has gone, this is going to be a single episode this week instead of the usual 2 I do. But next week I would fully expect to go back to doing 2. Also feeling a little sick right now, so I want to give myself a little bit of a break. Go figure, it happens right after I finish building my computer, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. any event, I hope you enjoyed seeing all these historical documents. I certainly know I did. And with that, thank you all for watching, and thank you all for your patience for the couple of weeks that I was missing in action. And stay safe out there, and stay tuned for next time, and we'll see you then.